I never thought everything would fall apart so quietly. No screaming, no cheating, no plates flying across the room. Just emptiness. 10 years of marriage to Nathan disappeared like steam in the air, leaving behind a numbness and this strange sense of guilt. Like I had done something wrong. Like I destroyed something I should have held on to. Nathan and I met in our last year of college. He was a year ahead, calm, logical, with a clear plan for life. At the time, I admired people who seemed confident and in control. That might have been my first mistake. We got married 2 years after graduation. The wedding was small but cozy. I genuinely believed we were building something solid. The first few years were okay. Nothing thrilling, but stable. We both had jobs. I worked in marketing and he was at an insurance company. We owned a modest condo, made the usual Christmas trips to his parents, and sometimes had dinner with my sister Brooke and her husband Travis. But year by year, something crept in between us. Silence. Nathan started talking less and less. When I asked if everything was okay, he just nodded and said, "Yeah, it's fine." And that fine was slowly killing me. I held on. Year 5, 6, 7. I hoped he was just going through something. Stress, burnout, maybe a midlife crisis. I tried to be supportive. I brought up counseling, planned weekend getaways, initiated conversations. But he kept drifting further away. By year 8, I felt like I was living with the ghost of a man who didn't even want to look at me anymore. The final straw came on a completely normal Tuesday. I made pasta. He ate in silence, didn't even glance at me. That was it. I looked at him and realized I was dying next to someone who didn't care if I was even breathing. I said, "I need to leave." He didn't argue. He just nodded. My family's reaction was worse than I'd expected. My mom said I was just tired and made a rash decision. But the worst part was Brooke. She looked at me like I was weak and said, "You just don't understand how relationships work. All men are like that. It's not a reason to quit." Brooke was always the successful one. 2 years younger than me. She married Travis, a high-level executive at a giant tech company. They lived in a massive house outside the city, drove a Tesla, traveled to the Maldives or Iceland every few months. Her social media was picture perfect. Silk robes by the pool, wine by the fireplace, couple selfies with coordinated outfits. And whenever I hinted at trouble in my marriage, she brushed it off. "We work on our relationship," she would say like a mantra. After my divorce, Brooke never missed a chance to point out how well her life was going. She'd invite me over and kiss Travis in front of me like she was in a perfume commercial. She called him my rock, my hero, my soulmate. At times, it felt like she was mocking me, but I kept my cool. I rented a small apartment in the south end of the city, threw myself into work, took up yoga. Still, every interaction with her left a bitter taste. Then one Monday evening, gray, unremarkable, I had just left the office. Brooke called me. Her voice was shaking. "Alicia, can you come over? Please. I need you." There was something unfamiliar in her tone. Not arrogance. Not condescension. Panic. When I got to her place, Travis opened the door. He looked nothing like the man in those glossy Instagram photos. Unshaven, eyes bloodshot, shirt wrinkled. I found Brooke curled up on the living room floor, crying. "He has someone else," she whispered. It took me a moment to process what she meant. Travis had been having an affair with his assistant for over a year. They met in hotels, messaged constantly. He even bought her a Cartier bracelet. Brooke found out by accident. She opened his email on their shared iPad while he was in the shower. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was the one who supposedly gave up. Yet she, the poster child for marital success, had been living with a man cheating behind her back. I didn't feel triumphant. I honestly felt sorry for her. She looked shattered, humiliated. But in that moment, I realized my instincts were right all along. Better to leave an empty shell than stay for appearances. That was just the beginning. Their home turned into a battlefield. Brooke tried to kick Travis out, but he wouldn't go. He kept claiming he loved her and it was all a mistake. She wavered. One day she vowed to file for divorce. The next she was cooking dinner, just to keep things normal. They didn't even have kids. Her pride was unraveling, and I had a front row seat. One night, after she came to stay at my place, she admitted something I'll never forget. "I was always afraid of you," she said quietly. "You were stronger. You didn't care what people thought. You did what I couldn't." It was surreal. The same Brooke who once treated me like a loser was now confessing she'd envied me, that she wore her perfect life like a costume. And then came the real bombshell. A few weeks later, I found out Travis wasn't just a cheater. His company had been investigating financial fraud in his division for months. Turns out, Travis had been funneling money into offshore accounts under his mistress's name. Fake contracts, dummy invoices, the whole 9 yards. When it came to light, he was fired immediately. No severance. Legal charges pending. Brooke was in shock. Their assets were frozen. The house, the Tesla, their vacation fund, even the Rolex he gave her on their anniversary locked. And you know what she did? For the first time in her life, she asked me for help. Not advice. Not emotional support. Money. The same woman who spent years flaunting her perfect lifestyle stood in my living room asking for rent. I gave her the money. Not because she was my sister, but because I understood something she didn't until it was too late. Real strength isn't about appearances. It's about surviving when the mask falls off. And now every mask had come off. If you've ever been humiliated in front of a crowd, you know the way your stomach clenches. That heat in your cheeks. The silent, invisible burn that makes you want to disappear. Now imagine experiencing that not once, not twice, but over and always by the same person. My own sister Brooke. After my divorce from Nathan, things didn't exactly go quiet. Sure, my life was less dramatic on the surface, but Brooke made it her personal mission to remind me and everyone else that I had failed. It didn't matter where we were, a family barbecue, a friend's birthday, a charity gala. She always found a way to turn the conversation into an opportunity to belittle me. The first time was subtle. We were at our cousin Melanie's engagement party. Lots of distant relatives, half of whom I hadn't seen since high school. I was standing near the buffet table, making small talk with Aunt Lorraine, when Brooke walked up with Travis on her arm, like they were royalty entering a ballroom. "Oh, Alicia," she said, just a little too loudly. I was just telling Travis how hard it must be to navigate social events alone. I mean, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have someone by my side. She smiled sweetly at me, then looked around to make sure her comment landed with the surrounding guests. It did. A few raised eyebrows. An awkward sip of wine from Lorraine. I gave her a tight smile. "Thanks for your concern, Brooke. I managed just fine." But that was just the beginning. At our parents' anniversary dinner, with over 30 guests seated under white string lights in their backyard, Brooke raised her glass during a toast and said, "Let's all drink to lasting love. Mom and Dad, 50 years strong. Travis and I, almost 11. And for those still figuring it out, don't worry, Alicia. Practice makes perfect." The crowd laughed. My father glanced at his plate. My mother cleared her throat. I stared at my wine glass, then drank every drop just to have an excuse not to speak. Brooke didn't even blink. She looked proud of herself. Like this was a sport and she'd just scored a point. Then there was the charity gala. That night sticks with me more than any other. It was an event hosted by the Silverwell Foundation, raising money for youth education programs. I'd been invited through my company and even helped coordinate one of the silent auction items. It was a formal affair, black ties, floor-length gowns, champagne flutes, photographers. I wore a sleek emerald dress I'd spent weeks picking out. I felt good. Confident even. Until Brooke arrived. She made her entrance like she always did. Late enough to be noticed, loud enough to be heard. She wore blood-red satin and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She beelined toward me while I was speaking with Martin Delling, the foundation director. "Alicia," she said, interrupting. "Darling, that dress is so brave. I love that you're not afraid to take risks, even after everything." Martin looked confused. I smiled thinly. Brooke looped her arm through mine. "I was just telling Travis how inspiring you are. You know, starting over, going to events like this all by yourself. I mean, it takes guts. I don't think I could handle being single in my 30s. I stepped away and excused myself, but she wasn't done. During the live auction, she raised her hand and bid $5,000 on a weekend spa retreat package. After she won, she leaned into the microphone and said, "Guess I'll use this to recharge from all the hard work of being a full-time wife. You single gals probably don't understand." There were scattered laughs. A few people looked uncomfortable. I could feel eyes on me. Later, in the powder room, I locked myself in a stall and texted my assistant Zoe, remind me never to come to anything Brooke is invited to. But it didn't stop. At a 4th of July party thrown by family friends, I was chatting with a guy named Marco, a charming divorce lawyer with a wicked sense of humor. We were mid-conversation when Brooke swooped in. "Oh, Alicia, have you met Marco? He's exactly your type. Tall, confident, emotionally unavailable. She collects those like trading cards." Marco laughed nervously. I left soon after. There was the dinner at the Shermans, where she loudly asked me across the table, "Still sleeping on that IKEA mattress in your rental, or have you upgraded to something more permanent?" And the baby shower for our cousin Jasmine, where she leaned in and whispered, "I hope you're not too uncomfortable around all these successful couples. You know, since you're recalibrating your life." I started skipping events. I made up work deadlines, fake illnesses, even said I was traveling when I wasn't. But it didn't matter. She'd still find ways to get her jobs in. One night, during a family Zoom call for our aunt's birthday, she said, "Alicia, you look tired. You know, that solo life grind must be exhausting. I'd offer to set you up with someone, but I'm not sure they'd meet your expectations. Or your track record." No one said anything. Eventually, I realized Brooke wasn't doing this because she was secure in her life. She was doing it because she needed to prove something. To herself, maybe. That she'd won. That her life was better. And what better way to reinforce that than by turning me into the family's cautionary tale? But here's the twist. Despite everything, I kept my head down. I worked. I got promoted. I started managing new accounts, including a surprisingly major one with a tech firm Brooke's friend tried to land for months. I kept quiet about it. I didn't need to win on her terms. But the moment that finally pushed everything over the edge came at a friend's wedding. It was a small ceremony, just 40 people, held in a garden with fairy lights and jazz. I was seated at the table with Brooke and Travis, of course. During the toast, Brooke leaned over, clearly tipsy, and whispered, "You know, weddings must be bittersweet for you now. All those promises that didn't stick." I turned to her and said, calm as ever, "Do you even hear yourself?" She blinked. "Excuse me, you act like your marriage is a trophy. Like you're better than me because yours hasn't ended yet. But look around, Brooke. Nobody here actually respects you. They're just too polite to say it out loud. Travis, already red-faced from the wine, chuckled. That broke something. Brooke stood up. At least I have a husband. I didn't get thrown out like garbage. Every head turned. Silence fell like a stone. I stood up too. No, Brooke. I walked away. There's a difference. I walked away because I refused to live in a graveyard of a relationship. And you? You're still clinging to the illusion that yours is alive. People stared. I left before dessert. The next morning, I had 3 messages from guests. All 3 said some version of, good for you. And Brooke? She didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. It was the most peace I'd had in years. I wasn't looking for it. Honestly, at that point I had started to distance myself from the drama. After Brooke's string of public humiliations and my own slow crawl towards something resembling peace, I made a conscious effort to stop caring. I didn't stalk her Instagram. I didn't ask about Travis. I went to fewer family events, focused on work, and tried to reconstruct some kind of life for myself. Something simple, honest, drama-free. And then, out of nowhere, I got a message that knocked the wind out of me. It was from Lana, a former coworker of mine who now freelanced in PR for high-end brands. We weren't particularly close, but we followed each other on socials and exchanged the occasional meme or professional question. The message popped up on a Wednesday evening. Hey Alicia, this is going to sound crazy, but is this your sister's husband? Attached was a screenshot from an exclusive dating app called Banta. Think Tinder, but for people who think Tinder is too pedestrian. The kind of place where every profile includes your net worth, your yacht size, or at least a blue check mark on social media. The photo in the screenshot was unmistakably Travis, slicked back hair, dark navy suit, and that fake performative smirk he always wore at events. But what really caught my attention was the bio underneath. Travis, 35. Married but bored. Seeking new energy. Private meets preferred. My mouth went dry. I zoomed in to double check. Same hairline, same little scar on his chin from a bike accident in college. Even his username, execplay35, was grossly on brand. I read the whole profile 3 times, just to be sure I wasn't misinterpreting. There were other photos, too. One of him on a rooftop bar, another on a boat, holding a glass of whiskey with his wedding ring still visible. I messaged Lana back. Where did you find this? She replied almost immediately. One of my clients matched with him. Recognized him from a tech conference. Said he's been active for months. That was all I needed. You'd think I'd just send the screenshot to Brooke and let the bomb drop. But I didn't. Not yet. A part of me needed to be absolutely sure. After all the chaos, all the times she accused me of being dramatic or jealous, I knew this needed to be airtight. Unshakable. So I started digging. First, I made a burner profile on Banta. Used a stock photo, a made-up job title, claimed I was a venture capital consultant. It took less than 2 hours to get approved. Once I was in, I searched for Travis. Found him instantly. Same profile. Same disgusting bio. But now I had access to his full gallery. There were even more pictures I hadn't seen. Some taken in hotel rooms I could recognize from local chains. One clearly from a weekend he claimed to Brooke he was at an off-site team building retreat. He had active now next to his name. I sent a message. Something short, like what I see. Where do you usually meet? Within minutes, he replied, discretion is important. Usually somewhere private. You free Friday? I didn't respond. I didn't need to. My hands were shaking. I dug deeper. I went to Instagram. I searched his following list, filtered through newer profiles. One stood out, Stella VXO. Model type, low follower count, a feed full of soft selfies, cocktails, hotel lobbies. I scrolled and found a post from 2 weeks ago, her lounging on a leather couch. In the background, I could see a very specific marble table with gold trim, the same kind Brooke had in their living room. I messaged her from the burner account. Hey girl, you seeing Travis too? She didn't respond right away. But later that night, she sent, who's asking? I kept it vague. Let's just say I'm familiar with the guy. Just wondering if he's telling you the truth. The next morning, she replied with a laughing emoji and said, he told me he's getting divorced. Says his wife's a nightmare. I almost laughed out loud. Brooke, the woman who defended that man like he was the last functioning human male on Earth, was being cast as the nightmare in his side chick soap opera. Then Stella dropped the hammer. She sent screenshots of messages. Him saying, I wish I could wake up next to you, and she doesn't get me the way you do. One of them had a timestamp from the same night Brooke had posted a story of their dinner at home. Travis smiling, carving steak, holding a wine glass. A facade for her followers. While he was texting Stella from the bathroom. I saved everything. Then I went through his Twitter likes. More bikini models. Thinly veiled flirting. I checked Foursquare. Yes, people still used it, and saw check-ins at bars across town Brooke never mentioned. One of them? The same place where Nathan and I had our 5th anniversary dinner. I hadn't been back since. And finally, the last nail. LinkedIn. He'd updated his job title a few months back. Senior Consultant, Apex Growth Group. That's not the company he used to work for. Turns out, Apex was a shell company tied to a man named Glenn Parker, who had been sued for running fraudulent networking groups for men in executive transitions. A place for guys like Travis to sell air, play entrepreneur, and pretend they still had something to offer. I confronted Glenn under my burner alias. Said I was writing a business piece on Apex. He immediately backpedaled and tried to say Travis wasn't really involved anymore, which told me everything. This wasn't just infidelity. This was a man reinventing himself as a player, lying about his job, his marriage, and his life to chase attention and validation from strangers. He was a cliché in human form, and Brooke had no idea. At least, I thought she didn't. When I finally gathered all the evidence into one neat little folder on my desktop, screenshots, messages, LinkedIn data, social posts, I hesitated. Not because I doubted the truth, but because I knew what would come next. If I sent this to Brooke, it wouldn't just break her image of her marriage. It would crush her, humiliate her, destroy every smug comment she'd made about me in front of others. She had made me a punchline, and now I held the setup and the delivery. And yet, I also couldn't ignore it. Not anymore. That Friday, I printed everything. Yes, printed. Put it in a black folder. No subject lines. No labels. Just raw data. I dropped it off at her house while she was at a yoga retreat upstate. Slipped it through the mail slot like a private investigator dropping a final report. I didn't include a note. I didn't need to. The next time I saw her name light up my phone, it was just a single message. We need to talk. I didn't originally plan to go public. That was never the goal. In fact, part of me hoped Brooke would just take the folder, confront Travis in private, and finally stop pretending. But of course, nothing with Brooke ever happens quietly. I waited 2 days after delivering the folder. No call, no response, no apology, no acknowledgement. Just radio silence. Then, on the third morning, I woke up to find she had blocked me. Not just unfollowed, blocked. On everything. That was the moment I snapped. It wasn't even anger that pushed me over the edge. It was clarity. After everything, all the humiliation, all the whispers at parties, all the fake sympathy laced with venom, she still thought she could erase me. Like I was the problem. Like I was the shameful one. So I did what I never thought I'd do. I sent the evidence to a page called Elite Expose, a rapidly growing Instagram account run by someone known only as Marla. Their whole brand revolved around calling out the morally bankrupt upper crust. Politicians, CEOs, influencers, executives, anyone who presented a perfect life while behaving like absolute trash behind the scenes. I followed the page for months. I'd seen them take down a hedge fund manager who was secretly soliciting interns, a TV producer with a hidden second family. I never thought I'd be part of that content. But something about the page felt fair. They didn't editorialize. They just posted receipts, screenshots, DMs, emails. No names unless the subject was publicly verified. I messaged Marla using my burner account. Have a married exec with multiple online dating profiles, fake job listings, and screenshots of conversations with multiple women. One of them confirms he's lying to his wife. 10 minutes later, can you prove he's elite? I sent his old LinkedIn, photos of him with a CEO at a known firm, and the Vanta profile. Marla replied, that's enough. Send the files. He's going up Friday. I watched it happen like someone watching a train derail in slow motion. The post dropped at 6:04 p.m. sharp. Marla didn't name him directly but included enough identifiers that anyone local, or anyone who followed either of them, could figure it out in seconds. She blurred out the username but left the job title, age, and photo uncensored. The caption read, another self-proclaimed executive looking for adventure while wearing a wedding ring. Says he's trapped in a dead marriage, while texting side chicks from the bathroom during date nights. Gentlemen, if you're going to cheat, don't do it from your wife's couch. Then came the screenshots. The bio from Vanda. The messages to Stella. The Instagram flirtations. One of the burner messages he sent saying, my wife has no idea. I could be sitting across from her and texting you. I thought it might get a few hundred likes. A few ew comments. That's what usually happened. Instead, it exploded. Within an hour, it had 12,000 likes and over 1,700 comments. People started tagging each other. Is this who I think it is? This looks like that Travis guy from those finance panels. Wait, is this Brooke and Travis? By 9 p.m., someone posted it in a local gossip subreddit with the caption, is this who I think it is? Used to work at Commer Holdings. Wife's name starts with AB. Then it hit the family group chat. I wasn't even looking at my phone when it happened. My cousin Jonah texted me separately, did you see the group chat? I opened it and nearly dropped my coffee. Aunt Susan had shared the post with the message, OMG, isn't this Travis? Alicia? Then my Uncle Keith chimed in, that's 100% Travis. What the hell? The thread kept going. Brooke hadn't said a word. 15 minutes later, my dad sent a voice message. Not a text, a voice message, which he never does. His tone was quiet, shaky. Brooke, if this is true, you need to call your mother. No. The fallout was immediate. Travis deactivated all his social media within an hour. His LinkedIn vanished. So did his Instagram and even his Spotify account. I got a message from Stella, short and sharp. He just called me screaming. Thanks for the warning. Blocking him now. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The next morning, I walked into Cafe Vincent for my usual order, and before I even reached the counter, the barista, Michelle, a sweet girl in her 20s, gave me a stunned look. Wait, you're her sister, right? The guy from the post? Oh my god. I'm so sorry. The gossip had reached the civilians. That weekend, Brooke didn't show up to Aunt Maureen's retirement party. Instead, She sent a one-line message to the family chat, not feeling well. No one replied. But Maureen pulled me aside and whispered, I always knew something was off about that guy. The way he talked to the waitstaff? Like he was born in a boardroom. Monday morning, I got a call from Zoe, my assistant at work. You're not going to believe this, she said. Apparently, someone at Travis's old company had screenshotted the post and emailed it to his former colleagues. It was bouncing through group chats all across the finance and consulting world. Marla's page was now at 135,000 followers, up from 90K 3 days ago. The post had been featured on 2 gossip blogs and screenshotted on Twitter by a former tech reporter who added, every time you think these guys can't get worse. By Wednesday, Brooke was in full-blown damage control mode. She started blocking people. First, mutual friends. Then family members. She even took her Instagram private and wiped every trace of Travis from it. But the internet never forgets. Old tagged posts, group photos, her gushy anniversary captions. People reposted them in the comments under the exposé. Then came the biggest shock. I was walking through the produce aisle at Hensley's Market when I got a call from Jordan, one of Brooke's oldest friends. Have you seen her stories? No. I'm blocked. She posted a 6-minute monologue. She's calling it a smear campaign. I asked her to screen record it. Jordan sent it over an hour later. Brooke was sitting in what looked like a luxury bathroom. Dim lighting, soft background music, her makeup perfectly done. She spoke slowly, as if she'd practiced every word. This has been a difficult time for me and my family, she began. Many of you have seen things online that are deeply personal and wildly exaggerated. I won't comment on rumors, but I will say this, no marriage is perfect. We all face challenges. I choose to handle mine with grace, not by airing them on the internet. Then she looked straight into the camera. To the person who decided to share private matters publicly, I hope your conscience is clear. She didn't say my name, but everyone knew. The comments were brutal. Girl, he literally had dating profiles. This isn't private matters. It's public humiliation with receipts. Your sister deserves an award for surviving your gaslighting. I didn't respond. I didn't post. I didn't gloat. But that night, I slept better than I had in years. Because for once, the truth was louder than Brooke's voice. And everyone finally heard it. I knew the call would come eventually. Not the polite, performative let's talk kind of call. I'm talking about the kind that hits your phone with a jarring vibration, the screen flashing your sister's name like a warning. It came 3 days after the viral post, right as I was locking up the office late on a Thursday. I picked up before I could think twice. What the hell is wrong with you? Brooke's voice was shaking, not from sadness, but from pure fury. I said nothing. You've humiliated me. Do you even understand what you've done? You've destroyed my marriage. I took a breath, leaned against the wall outside the elevators. No, Brooke, I said calmly. Travis destroyed your marriage. I just turned on the lights. You had no right. No right to make it public. I waited a beat before answering. So I guess the private folder I dropped off wasn't enough? You blocked me. You acted like I didn't exist. You wanted to keep pretending while he kept cheating. There was a pause. A long, charged silence. You did this because you've always hated me, she said quietly. You were jealous. Jealous of my life, of what I had, of my marriage. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Brooke, your marriage was a brand. It was a curated lifestyle. You were more in love with the image than the man. You're cruel, she snapped. No, I said. I'm finally honest. She hung up without another word. I didn't hear from her for weeks after that. But the fallout didn't stop. If anything, it got worse. It started with the charity board. Brooke had sat on the executive board of Hearts Forward, a well-known regional nonprofit focused on women's education. She'd served as their public face for 3 years, schmoozed at fundraisers, hosted brunches, even got featured in a local magazine with the headline, Grace Under Pressure, How One Woman Balances Career, Charity, and Marriage. After the exposé, her profile vanished from their website. Quietly, no statement. Just gone. Then came the whispers. I heard from Marcy Collins, a junior board member I'd met once at a benefit, who told me that one of the major donors, Evelyn Marsh, threatened to pull her funding unless Brooke stepped down. She said the organization couldn't afford the optics, Marcy texted. Apparently, someone forwarded the Instagram post to their corporate sponsor at Fairway Bank. That wasn't all. A few days later, Brooke's best friend from college, Samantha, removed all photos of them together from her feed. Samantha had once called Brooke her ride or die in a caption. Now her grid looked like Brooke had never existed. And when I ran into Samantha at a bookstore, of all places, she approached me first. I always knew something was off, she said after a long pause. But the way she blamed you? After everything he did? No. I can't stand beside that. Even her coworkers started pulling away. One of her closest work allies, Julia Hartman, who shared an office suite with Brooke in a consulting space, apparently filed a complaint after Brooke allegedly created a hostile environment by screaming at a receptionist who accidentally brought her the wrong order from Sweet Green. Julia moved out of the suite 2 days later. Word traveled fast through the city's executive women's network. One by one, the connections Brooke had spent years curating, her social wrapper, as she once called it, started unraveling. At family gatherings, it was no better. When she showed up, finally, to my mom's 60th birthday, the energy in the room shifted. My cousins stayed quiet around her. My Uncle Russell walked away mid-conversation. Even my mom, who used to defend her blindly, looked uncomfortable. At one point, Brooke approached me with that same brittle smile I'd seen at charity galas, the one that tried to hold everything together with teeth. "I hope you're happy," she whispered. "No," I said flatly. "I'm not. I wish it hadn't come to this." She leaned in closer. "You didn't just ruin him. You ruined me. Everything I built." I looked her in the eyes. If what you built can collapse under the weight of the truth, then it wasn't real to begin with. She walked away without responding. Travis, for his part, had become a ghost. Rumors floated that he was staying at a cheap corporate apartment in Midtown. One of my friends, Heather, swore she saw him walking out of a Planet Fitness at 6 in the morning looking like a Wall Street guy who'd just been through a car wash. His reputation took a beating too. Not just socially, professionally. His name got blacklisted from 2 networking events. One recruiter even shared, off the record, that someone flagged him as a PR liability. Apparently, screenshots of the post made it into a private executive Slack channel. No one wanted to touch him. And then came the most surreal moment of all. A podcast. Not just any podcast, The Inner Circle, a buzzy weekly show about corporate life, ethics, and scandals, hosted by Alana Rhodes, a rising star in investigative media. In episode 92, titled The Mask Falls Off, when personal branding turns toxic, she spent 30 minutes talking about a married tech consultant who was exposed for serial cheating and identity fraud by none other than his sister-in-law. They didn't say our names. But if you knew the details, you knew it was us. She even read part of the Vanta profile out loud, then added, "I spoke to someone close to the situation who told me the wife is still blaming the sister instead of the husband." Think about how twisted that is. I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate either. I just sat in my car outside Trader Joe's and listened, heart pounding, hands tight around the steering wheel. Then came the final fracture. It was at the annual Hanley family brunch, a tradition we'd kept for over a decade. Dozens of relatives in one house. Mimosa towers, catered pastries, little name tags. Brooke showed up in all white, as if trying to bleach herself of scandal. Half the room ignored her. A few gave her cautious smiles. But everyone saw how brittle she looked. The mask had cracked, and everyone could see the lines underneath. Midway through brunch, she stood up during the family update circle. "I know this year's been complicated," she began, voice trembling. "And I know there's been a lot of talk. But I want to remind everyone that family should come before clicks, before gossip, before Instagram drama. I've made mistakes, but I'm still me." Dead silence. Then my cousin Natalie, who never spoke at these things, stood up and said, "You weren't just a victim, Brooke. You humiliated Alicia for years while your own husband was cheating on you. You're only sorry now that everyone knows." Someone muttered, "Amen." Brooke's eyes met mine across the room. Pure hatred, but also something else. Resentment mixed with fear. She was cornered, and she knew it. She left before dessert. And that was it. No grand showdown. No tearful reconciliation. Just silence, broken only by the sound of a carefully constructed life collapsing under the weight of its own lies. The truth didn't destroy Brooke all at once. It happened in stages, like watching a once grand house start to buckle and crack, then suddenly collapse into a pile of rotted beams and dust. It began with Travis vanishing. Not literally, but socially. He ghosted his own life. The man who used to flaunt his every move, his watch collection, his overpriced steaks, his fake executive meetings, went radio silent. The first time I heard about his reappearance was from a former neighbor of theirs, Janine, who saw him 2 weeks after the scandal at some flashy nightclub downtown called Nova Pulse. "He looked like a washed-up finance bro trying to hang on," she told me, sipping an oat milk latte as if she were delivering Hollywood gossip. Like he didn't know the party ended 10 years ago. Apparently, Travis had started showing up at Nova Pulse and another club called Elysian Room every weekend, sometimes on weeknights too. He was always with women who looked barely out of college. Long lashes, designer knockoffs, too much perfume. He didn't try to hide. A few mutuals even saw him on public stories, dancing like he was 25 again, glassy-eyed and clinging to someone else's youth. That's when the photos started circulating. One of my former coworkers, Megan, texted me a blurry screenshot of Travis at a VIP table, arms draped around 2 women. "Isn't this the guy your sister was married to?" Another image surfaced a few days later, this time posted to a gossip page called Scene in Sin NYC. Travis was standing outside Elysian Room at 2 a.m., half-zipped jacket, clearly drunk, talking to a bouncer with his hands in the air like he was pleading for another round. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt embarrassed for him. He didn't try to explain himself. No statements. No damage control. Just one day gone. He packed a few things from the house, which Brooke was forced to list for sale by then, and disappeared into whatever sad nightlife ecosystem he thought would save him. He never even returned the custom luggage Brooke gave him for their anniversary. Just left it in the garage. And Brooke? She unraveled in a way I didn't expect. She went offline. Completely. The woman who once documented everything, her kale salads, her sunset wine glasses, her motivational captions, deleted her Instagram. Her Twitter was scrubbed. LinkedIn gone. The only digital trace left was an old Pinterest board filled with half-baked vision boards and white marble kitchens. At first, I thought maybe she was regrouping, planning a rebrand. But days turned into weeks, and she stayed silent. Our family noticed. At first, they tried to tread lightly. My mom excused her absence from Sunday dinners as needing space. My Aunt Linda suggested maybe she was just detoxing from digital toxicity. But eventually, the tone shifted. During one of our gatherings, my cousin Becca, always blunt, finally said what everyone was thinking. She built a castle out of lies and now wants us to pretend it's still standing. I'm not doing that. No one disagreed. Even my mother, who had once fiercely defended Brooke, slowly stopped mentioning her at all. The shift was subtle but seismic. For years, I'd been the one under the microscope, single, divorced, unstable. Now, no more side glances. No more forced interventions. Just peace. There was one more unexpected moment that sealed everything. I got an email from someone named Clara Holtzman, a woman I didn't recognize. The subject line simply read, "You don't know me, but I owe you." Inside was a short message. I was seeing Travis casually for a few months. He told me he was separated, that the divorce was basically done. I found out everything when someone sent me the post from Elite Expose. I just wanted to say thank you for putting it out there. You probably saved more women than you realize. Clara attached a screenshot from Travis. He'd messaged her the night before the post went live, asking if she wanted to get away to the Caymans. Just us. That was the same weekend Brooke had posted a staycation story of them sipping wine in their backyard. He'd lied to both of them as always. After Clara's email, I received 2 more messages from other women. One from a bartender named Elena who worked at Nova Pulse and said Travis had tried to recruit her into some crypto-adjacent side hustle while flirting relentlessly. Another from a woman named Jules, who met him on a luxury app where he claimed to be separated due to emotional abuse. In each message, I saw a version of the same man. Weak, performative, and perpetually running from reality. Brooke must have realized that eventually too. I hadn't heard from her since the phone call. But then, almost 2 months after the post went viral, she showed up at our mother's house unannounced. I was already there, helping Mom sort out some boxes for a garage sale. Brooke walked in wearing oversized sunglasses, no makeup, and a hoodie that looked like it belonged to someone else. She didn't say hi. She went straight to Mom and said, "Do you still have that lawyer's number?" My mother, clearly caught off guard, nodded. "I think so." Then Brooke turned to me. "I hope you're proud of yourself." I looked at her. Pale, hollowed out, like the scaffolding of confidence she used to wear had finally been stripped away. "No," I said. "But I am free." She didn't reply. That was the last time I saw her. Rumors popped up here and there. Someone said she moved to a short-term rental near Edgewater. Another said she was taking time to reset. But no one knew for sure. She didn't answer texts. She missed 2 family birthdays. She stopped donating to the charities she used to use as her personality. And quietly, without announcement, our family stopped making excuses for her. At Thanksgiving, her name wasn't mentioned. At Christmas, the group chat stayed focused on dinner menus and gift swaps. Not a single Brooke might join later, or she's having a hard time. It was as if everyone finally accepted the truth. She'd made her choices, and now we were making ours. The strangest part? I didn't miss her. I missed the idea of her, the sister I once thought I had. But the real Brooke? The one who mocked me, undermined me, and built her identity on the bones of everyone around her? I felt nothing for her anymore. No hate. No bitterness. Just space where something used to be. I started walking more. Joined a small community group downtown. Helped organize a fundraiser for the local library where people knew me not as Brooke's sister or the divorced one, but just as Alicia. I got a dog scout. A rescue mutt with big ears and 0 personal boundaries. Every morning we walked along the river, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to brace myself for anything. No hidden insults. No forced smiles. No performance. Just me. And the quiet. It was over. Finally.